but I don't have any announcements to make today with regards to any agreement. It's something that we're continuing to work on.
Okay. Next question, please. When will the United States condemn Israel targeting of civilians in Gaza, especially considering that U.S. administration is providing Israel with the weapons that killed the Palestinian civilian?
We are incredibly troubled by the ongoing deaths of Palestinians in Gaza. I've made that clear. I spoke to that earlier in the briefing in response to a question from one of your colleagues. Yes. As I said, it's an incredibly difficult situation. It remains an incredibly difficult situation. When you have not just Hamas militants, but if it turns out to be true that Mohammed Dept was actually hiding among civilians, one of the leaders, the number two in the leadership of Hamas in Gaza, was hiding among civilians in Gaza, it just shows the very difficult challenge that this war poses. Obviously, he is a legitimate military target. He has tremendous blood on his hands, including the blood of American citizens, I should remind everyone of. And so he is someone that Israel should be allowed to target and go after, but they have to do it in a way that minimizes, that prevents civilian casualties, and it's very difficult operating in this environment, but that doesn't in any way alleviate their responsibility to do so.
But is this justified to kill civilians, children?
There is no justification for the death of civilians. No, absolutely not. We don't want to see any civilians die. There is justification for strikes on military targets and militants, including the leadership of Hamas, and those are strikes that we support, but they need to be carried out in a way that, to the maximum, to the furthest extent possible, minimizes and prevents civilian harm. That is what we continue to press upon the government of Israel. As I said earlier, civilian casualties have come down fairly significantly from earlier in the war, but they still remain unacceptable. And that is why we continue to push for a ceasefire. It's why a ceasefire is so important, because then you wouldn't have kinetic activity inside Gaza that was leading to these civilian deaths day after day after day. You would have a pause in the conflict, a ceasefire that hopefully we could widen into an actual end to the war.
And also Israel needs strong words from the United States to condemn killed civilian, not only not allowed.
And I think I just made very clear that we are incredibly troubled by the deaths of civilians. And I can tell you, Secretary Blinken made that very clear in his meeting with senior Israeli officials earlier today.
But the United States wouldn't do something like this. I mean, there was time and time again that they actually held back striking, whether in Syria and Iraq, because some civilians were compromised. They have done that a number of times. So would they